Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to the JDL Season 3. We have MiTH up against Insidious Idol and I believe Division 1 of the Asian League. I am Mr. Blackadder, and you're joining me for this cast, and, well, what can I say? Off the back of Game 1, we even got a rampage, and what can I say? We had a good game. We could go for more aggression. Certainly we're looking for more aggression. And we consider right now Brewmaster for MiTH, Ember Spirit and Skywrath Mage for Insidious Idol. This looks inherently familiar. Could we be looking for another rampage? Could we be looking for another brawl-heavy game? I'm certainly hoping so. And again, the Shadow Shaman for MiTH. The same bands as well. The exact same bands as last game. Did I slip through a void in time, and am I casting the same game? Certainly not. Not with the Morphling banned out this time by MiTH. They have played it, they don't want to give it to their enemy, they will ban it out and be safe. And we consider how much work that Morphling did in game number 1, even getting that rampage in the game. I don't know about you, but I want to see another rampage, and it'll be a case of what hero can MiTH get that rampage with. Could we see the likes of, say, a Weaver for MiTH, or could we see another aggressive style of hero, or maybe a strength type, maybe a Chaos Knight, maybe an Alchemist, maybe something that can flat out brawl and just snowball through a fight. Even Luna comes to mind right now, but of course the ball is in MiTH's court. What hero do they want to run? What do they want to make this draft work?
Dire team bound.
I can tell you what they certainly don't want. They don't want the Centaur. Equally, Insidious Idols do not want the Death Prophet. No one likes fighting a Death Prophet, apparently, and this is, I believe, the 3rd game in a row I have seen it banned out. And honestly, I don't blame them. The strength of the Silence, the strength of the Crypt Swarm, and most certainly the Exorcism. Fighting under that ult, a regrettable mistake to make many a time.
5 seconds remaining.
But we won't see it in this game. Completely banned out, and what do Insidious take out now? Do they take out the Elder Titan that we saw so effective in Game 1? Do they take out the Sand King? Do they take out the Earthshaker or the Tide? I certainly think we're going to see a ban on one of those big team fight type heroes that have that initiation power, that have that devastating potential to turn a fight. We could even see a ban on Enigma at this point. Another one that comes to the mind. But it's certainly a open draft here. Skywrath Mage Ember could be a safe lane Ember, mid lane Ember. Skywrath Mage could be a mid lane Skywrath, could be a support Skywrath. An Ancient Seal is powerful, can be used for many a thing here. The ball's certainly in Insidious's court, and they're eating well into their reserve time, thinking, what should we ban? Do we target a ban against something they're really good at, or do we ban something here that just has such a good impact on the game? And they're going to take out the Spectre, so potentially removing that late game threat. And Insidious will once again opt for the Weaver. Are they going to opt for the completely identical draft as last game, though? It could be done. It honestly could be. But do you really want the squishier lineup that we saw in that game? Do we want that Viper once more? Do we want the what was the final hero? Name evades me right now. Mind Dub. Do they really want that same draft though? I'm unsure. And MiTH, certainly here, have options. They have Brewmaster and Shadow Shaman. Very flexible so far. Do they now pick up the Viper for themselves? Do they go for, say, another support, the Rubik that we saw so effective in game number 1? Or do we have something else available for MiTH? Do we see maybe something sneaky, something that can punish the Skywrath Mage? Maybe Nyx Assassin, we saw it yesterday and to great effect. And speaking of Nyx, Nyx is one of those heroes, how I feel about him. He has great potential to be a team fight control based hero. We see the early blink dagger on him. You play him like you play a... You see him and you play him like you would play a Tide. You would blink in, drop your stun, be it a Impale or be it a Ravage, either way, same kind of mechanic, and then you will look to use your other abilities and control the team fight. Especially when you have the mana burn and can burst down the Skywrath Mage's total mana pool. Kind of choices like that. And it would make a lot of sense, especially when a Lich is picked up here as well. For both of these sides, either could run the Nyx, be it a core Nyx or a support Nyx.
10 seconds remaining.
Nyx would punish the Lich, it would punish the Shadow Shaman. Equally, if MiTH ran it,
remaining.
it would certainly punish the Skywrath, considering Skywrath has one of the highest base int gains in the game. Very powerful hero to run up against the Skywrath, and you'll consider Skywrath will need capacity, so he's going to have to build for more int either way. Could be an interesting pick. But for Insidious, now they have to respond. How do they deal with this Lich? This Lich is going to be causing problems throughout the game, sacrificing creeps, removing that potential for experience,
Dire team
having a level advantage on MiTH Trust's side. But this is how they're going to address it.
team banned.
Skywrath Mage, Earthshaker, the biggest threat combo of recent months. Long-range defensive support from Earthshaker, or offensive, depending on how it's played, and the Skywrath Mage to combo up with that Mystic Flare, with that all-important Concussive Shot and Ancient Seal.
10
But it seems MiTH Trust will just laugh at this fact and think, Skywrath has a lot of potential mana, we're going to go for Mana Warfare, bring out the Anti-Mage, the big carry himself. And you consider, the reason I mention Nyx is for that ability to punish the Skywrath Mage in terms of his mana. Anti-Mage does the exact same thing and turns the Skywrath Mage into a flying bomb with the Mana Void.
Radiant team
But final bans come out. No Nature's Prophet, say MiTH Trust. No Nature's Rat at all. Equally, Insidious will turn around and say, yeah, we don't want you to have the Tide. You already have a lot of potential control and burst. Having a Tide would be a bit too much. So now we go into the final picks. What do we see for these two teams? Insidious, they've got their support combo, they have their potential offlane on the Weaver or safe lane. It's going to be an offlane Weaver, most likely on this point, and Skywrath. Skywrath to work with the Earthshaker and the Ember Spirit for most likely the mid lane. This does leave the Enchantress, and this kind of lane is going to be an interesting one for Insidious. What do they put farming where? Of course, unless this is, of course, a mid lane Skywrath, then you can put the Ember safe lane, the Weaver in the off lane, and then Earthshaker to support. That could work quite staggeringly well here for the lineup of Insidious. And I like this draft, I seriously do. And of course,
5 seconds
Anti-Mage cannot attack Enchantress anywhere near as quickly as he would like. I'm expecting high points in Untouchable. But MiTH Trust will opt again for the Elder Titan. And you consider Natural Order alone, it's going to cause a lot of pain here for Insidious. And can they answer that Elder Titan in this game? That is the question I have to answer, because the Elder Titan was one of the driving forces in game number 1. It is all up to the lineup of Insidious to deal with this Titan, to punish this Titan. But let's get into the game, ladies and gentlemen. For the dire side, this time it is the MiTH Trust. We have Lakells on the Anti-Mage. He is the king farmer for MiTH, and honestly I expect big things of him in this game. Anti-Mages can make such a powerful impact. Equally though, we have MyPro on the Brewmaster, 4th time in a row I'm seeing him play this hero. SD, 3rd time in a row I'm seeing him play the Shadow Shaman. Over on the Lich, and this could be, is this a dual lane mid with the Anti-Mage? Huh. We're going to have to keep an eye on this lane. This could be an interesting one. However, we do have Noki on that Lich, and finally, reprising his role from the last game as that Elder Titan, we have KYT. And as we stand, MiTH, in my mind, have a slight advantage in terms of the draft, at least based on their carry choice. The Anti-Mage can turn so many of those heroes into walking bombs, it's not even funny. But the flip side of this coin, for Insidious Idol, we do have Z-Red once again on that Skywrath Mage. We have Insidious, this time playing the Enchantress, in the last game the Wraith King. Over on the Weaver, we have Bethel. Now, didn't do too well in terms of the early game last time round. He needed, in my mind, a little bit more survivability, but he didn't really have much choice here. And as we stand now, he's going to be looking just for that same kind of build. He's going to need a Linken's, he's going to need a Desolator, he needs the physical damage, and he can certainly bring down targets in this one. He is going up in that mid lane. Finally, this does leave Shagasaurus, this time on the off-lane Earthshaker, and these lanes are not what I thought they would be at all. This is going to be a game to watch. We have a off-lane Earthshaker, so he's going to get a good amount of experience and potentially gold depending on how he plays. And of course a support Skywrath Mage with the Ember Spirit on the safe lane. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen in chat, I do like to hear your opinions. Who do you think is going to win this game? MiTH Trust or Insidious Idols? Place your bets now in the chat, and we'll take a look at that in a short amount of time. But from where we stand, my money, I'm going to say, is firmly on MiTH Trust's side at this point. Of course, I do love to be proven wrong in terms of bets occasionally. Unless it's against Sun Tzu, but nonetheless. My money will be on MiTH Trust, and what do you guys think in chat? Let's hear what you think. But from where we stand, in these matchups we have the dual lane Ember Spirit up against the off lane Elder Titan, and the Elder Titan's going to get what he needs here. He's going to get experience, he's going to get a little bit of gold, and he should be fine. But we do have the Enchantress sending its creep in the mid lane, forcing a fair amount of damage onto Lakel's here, and still, this could be very dangerous considering what the Enchantress can actually bring here. They're going to just use the Shackles to bring down the Centaur, but when one falls, another rises. Lakel's is going to have a very rough time, and these Centaurs alone are punishing Lakel's fairly heavily, and the stun could land as well at any point, which could lead into a Scucci, and maybe even a kill onto Lakel's if he is not careful. And while I would say this lane would generally favour the Anti-Mage and Lich duo, right now with the Enchantress support, my money is saying that Insidious might actually win this mid lane with this Weaver here. Of course, with the support of that Enchantress. And you've got to consider, Enchantress doesn't herself get into this fight, so she doesn't soak experience like the Lich does. It's a very effective thing to happen in this game. But bot lane, we do have KYT with that DD room chasing down Z-Red, and he'll pick up the first blood. Get caught up position and get hit with the anvil of the Elder Titan, you will be hurt. Specifically when he's stolen damage as well with that Ancestral Spirit, but not seeing that this time around. Brewmaster, however, on the flip side of this coin, will manage to bring down the Earthshaker, who got a little too aggressive and a little too ballsy for his own good. Of course, with the rotation in from SD, that's quite an easy kill for MiPro. But trades across the board right now. First Blood does, of course, go the way of MiTH, and, well, I say trades. This is very one-sided trades if they're trades, but MiTH Trust having the advantage they need at this point. Now, the thing that I find the interesting one here is Shagosaurus here on this Earthshaker. He's in the offlane role. He's going to most likely, I think, go for the Fisher build. If we see a offlane carry shaker, this could be... this could be interesting, but I highly doubt it. They need, in my mind, the extra control and the extra stun duration that Fisher does bring as it levels up. That'll help lock down the Anti-Mage. Then again, the flip side of this coin is we do see these lanes rotate around. They don't want the Anti-Mage in the mid lane any longer. He was getting punished too heavily by that Enchantress. If you were to go for the Enchant Totem, and it does seem that we are seeing the off-lane carry shaker, Enchant Totem isn't reduced by the spell shield of the Anti-Mage, a thing to keep in mind, and this will mean you can burst him down with potentially the right click of the Earthshaker. Now, it's going to be a lane to watch, and in the meantime, mid lane MiPro trading some damage into Bethel, and well, trade all the damage you like when you've got a tornado rotating in. MiPro is not going to like this. This is the threat Enchantress can provide, and honestly, Insidious doing everything he needs to do at this point and still continuing to farm up. Anti-Mage, in the meantime, as I miss a kill on this top line, manages to bring down the carry shaker once more. He almost gets brought down himself, though. It's going to be something to keep an eye on this top lane. It's going to be where the aggression is for the most part, especially with those rotations from SD come in on that Shadow Shaman. Equally though, Z-Red and Ysera on this bot lane, they're continuing to farm very well. It's a 25 for 6 Ember Spirit. And if there's one thing that we all know to be scared of, it is a farmed Ember Spirit. But can an Ember Spirit match up to an Anti-Mage in terms of physical carry potential? That is the question that is on my mind right now. Because it's a matchup that I haven't seen in a long time. We saw, I believe, one Anti-Mage in all of TI4, and that was picked up by DK, and I believe it didn't work out. In fact, we don't often see Anti-Mage these days. It's a very powerful carry hero, but he just fell off in terms of popularity, even though these big mana battery heroes like Skywrath the Mage are still in the meta. Mainly due to his fragility as the Anti-Mage. I mean, the Anti-Mage doesn't have much in the way of strength gain. He gets punished quite heavily for that. So that's something, if I had a stats man here, I would turn around and ask one of those, what is the percentage matchups between the two? But honestly, at this point, I don't know. However, if I have one with me in the next set of casts, I will ask him, just out of curiosity for you ladies and gentlemen in the chat. Lakel's is going to be at least harassed a small amount here by Shagosaurus, but equally, Surprise could be waiting nearby. SD wants to get another kill, but it's not going to be easy. But still, keeping an eye across the map, it's again a 3-kill advantage early on for MiTH here. Very reminiscent of the last game. But still, do we have that potential for a kill from Insidious? Certainly we can. We do have the Ancient Seal ready to go, as well as the rotation in from the Enchantress, but is MiPro wary of this? Is he going to go forward and try to CS, or is he going to play that a little bit safer? He doesn't want to risk it. He's going to reveal the smoke by walking a little too close, and well, MiPro's a little wise to the game now. He doesn't want to risk getting caught, being caught out, and that is good map awareness and game sense coming out of him. Icladon Noki guarding the Haste Rune, specifically for that Brewmaster. That's going to refill his bottle, and he's going to love the Lich for just that alone. But now we do get the supports rotating top lane. Have a pings come out immediately. MiTH know exactly where Z-Red and Insidious are, and they don't want to risk being caught out of position. Ember Spirit, wow, aggressive from the Ember Spirit. He's alone at this point. He's alone versus 2, and he manages to bring down the Ember. In the meantime, top lane, we do have the Primal Split coming in. In comes Lekels. They're going to go straight onto Insidious, but Insidious does have that point in Untouchable, so it's at least slowing down the kill on her. Now comes the turnaround, run the other way. Mana Void to drop, but it doesn't do anywhere near enough damage at level 1. In comes the Enchant Totem, trying to hold back the Fire Panda, but it accidentally blocks him, and with the Boulder Throw coming in from the Earth Panda, that is more than enough to clean up the Enchantress finally, and we get a effectively one trade across the map, bot lane for top lane.
Dire's middle tower
At about
is
7
under
minutes
attack.
in, but from where we stand still, you've got a TP out from the Skywrath in the far back there. I'm not sure why the Skywrath was there for a moment. I'm guessing he was forced to run this way off the back of that team fight. And in the meantime, mid lane we do have the rotation coming in once more from KYT. He does not want to risk being caught out by that Ember Spirit once more, and we can see Lich is continuing to have a presence in the spot lane, continuing to use Sacrifice, and at least gain some terms of presence on this map. If he can maintain that presence in the game, though, that's the big question. KYT will come back in, continue to farm up when the Ember Spirit is missing, and just a little bit of trade for trade across the map. We look at the CS, and sure, you've got top 2 are both members of Insidious, but we have an anti-mage in the field, and we all know what happens when Battle Fury comes online for Lekels. He's going to then claim half of the map for himself. That entire area there on the map that's cornered off is going to basically belong to Anti-Mage. He is going to farm through the entire jungle and potentially mid and top lanes. An Anti-Mage can get a large amount of farm quickly as soon as that all-important Battle Fury comes online. But Lekels did opt for the treads first, which is going to slow him down at least a little bit, and he is being constantly harassed by the Earthshaker, which is going to slow him down maybe a small amount. But he'll take it in his stride. They managed to kill the Earthshaker a few times, so the Anti-Mage does have a kill and an assist to his name here. But as we play out this early game, what else do we see coming across the board? We've not really spoke much about Bethel. Now, he's gone for that early Aquila. He has 1,000 gold in the bank. I'm honestly thinking we're going to see full treads on him and then move potentially towards a Linken's, just because he does not want to risk getting hexed by SD. Speaking of SD, he might be looking for that right now, and he already has his Arcane, so the next item we're going to be looking for on SD is that all-important Blink Dagger, and if we can see that dagger come online, it could spell the doom of Bethel, especially when the mid lane starts like this. Ether Shock to throw just to force back the creep wave, and do we get the initiation from KYT? No, we don't, and instead they're going to go for the Zoo instead. They focus on bringing down Enchantress's creeps, and at least they get a tiny bit of gold for their effort, but it's not the fight they wanted. Then again, top lane. Z-Red is lurking nearby with Shagasaurus. Shagasaurus does have that all-important Echo Slam ready to go, and Lekels, I'm not sure if he knows about the rotation from Z-Red here or the potential for an Ancient Seal, but he's going to have to be very careful, and now we get another pause, unfortunately. This game has been cursed by disconnects in game number 1 and slight lag spikes, but with any luck, touch wood, this will be sorted very rapidly and we can get this game back underway. Keep the momentum of the cast going. However, from where I sit in this game, or from where I stand, depending on phrasing, what do we have for potential coming up on the lineup of Insidious? What is Insidious going to go for specifically? Do we see Urn into early Ags? Do we see Orchid? Do we see the potential for just BKB for survivability? Honestly, I'm thinking we're going to see potentially the Orchid just for a way to shut down this Brewmaster. He'll blink in, attempt a Primal Split, drop the all-important Ancient Seal on the Brewmaster before that, and try to at least mitigate or stop his ult. The same could apply to the Elder Titan. Do you put the Orchid on him? It's going to stop him being able to come in with the Spirit, be able to stop him dropping that Earth Splitter. In my mind, again, an option that could work, and unfortunately we do have a little bit of a pause because of a blackout here for Insidious, and hopefully Insidious on that Enchantress will be able to get back in as soon as humanly possible. But I wonder, we look at the Lich isn't doing too well in terms of items. Sure, he's got 700 gold, that's going to be his boots, and he does almost have level 6 as well on Noki. So he's going to be able to come in with Chain Frost and at least do some work. Now, with MiTH backing him up, Chain Frost could be a big force in this game. You consider it's going to do a good amount of damage. It'll bounce, I believe, 7 times, no, 10 times at level 1. Of course, it got buffed in the last patch. Unlike me to forget, but yeah, it's been a early start to the day. Of course, it will deal a fair amount of damage, 280 a bounce at level 1, up to 10 times. If they can get a good team fight with the Chain Frost, it can turn a fight around, and that's going to be what Noki's aiming for this game, especially when we consider what CC is available. We have Echo Stomp from KYT, we have Hex and Shackles from SD. Over on the Brewmaster, we have plenty of stuns and slows on MiPro. Chain Frost is going to be a big thing in this fight, and it is honestly up to MiTH to find that level of positioning, because right now, the lineup of MiTH, they're not playing 3 cores. They're playing 4 Protect 1. We're going to see a lot of rotations from MiPro, and a lot of rotations from KYT with the supports to buy time for Lekels. And this is one of those games where I will say, the more time that MiTH Trust have, the harder this is going to be for Insidious. Quite literally in this game, time is the fire in which Insidious will burn. They need to end this game early. Late game anti-mage is going to be nigh impossible for them to deal with. He's going to be so tanky, he's going to have that staggeringly high amount of damage, and even when you've got an Ember Spirit, unless this Ember Spirit gets a remarkably good start, it's going to have a very hard time up against an anti-mage even. Sure, you do have the Weaver present as well, and potentially the Earthshaker to initiate, but for Lekels, it's going to be half of it absorbed through Spell Shield, half of it absorbed through the HP pool he will have when he gets a heart online, or blocked by BKB. And of course, an anti-mage can move through a teamfight like no other, with the Blink. In my mind, Insidious need to end this one early. If this goes past the 45-minute mark, I don't think that Insidious can win this. And now we're back underway. Where are we going to see the fight break out? Do we have the Blink Dagger on MiPro? Not yet. He's 800 gold away. When he has that Blink, MiPro is going to be that significant threat that we saw in game number 1. And it is only a matter of time. Time is the big factor here. Time is the decider of everything in this game. But nonetheless, KYT will continue to farm up himself. And what is KYT going to go for in this game? He's picking up a stick now, and do we see that progression into a potential BKB onto the Elder Titan once again, so we can come into these team fights and right-click? Or do we see something akin to maybe a Heaven's Halberd? Because a Halberd would, to an extent, stop the Ember Spirit. Halberd, in my mind, is one of the better items against the Ember, because the Ember tends not to get an early BKB. He can't afford to. He needs the damage. It's an option they have available right now. And now Lekels continuing to farm up. Still at the potential threat of these two, but... well, these two, but still, it's going to be rough. Then again, SD is lurking nearby, and SD can turn around these fights. Hex, Shackles, Ether Shock at level 3. If they land this combo on any of these supports, it's going to be very powerful, and Z-Red pinging right now. They want to go for this fight. Do they have the potential to with the Echo Slam? Yes, I believe they do. But in the meantime, mid lane, they're going to be sieging that middle tier 1, and the first tower of the game goes the way of Bethel on that Weaver, and that's going to start to add up, specifically if they can exert pressure on these towers. In the meantime, you've still got Ysera farming up against MiPro, and he'll go very aggressive with that Ember Guard now, trying to force the Brewmaster away, and will do so at least to a small extent. But still, just to stand down in aggression, I was expecting more aggression in this game. The way this game started, I was expecting aggression throughout, similar to, say, CIS styles of game, where you see that relentless level of aggression. But it seems both teams will say, yeah, let's stand down for a second, we're going to rotate around the map, we're going to get our stacks up. That's what we need to do. And Anti-Mage is starting to pick up those components to that all-important Battle Fury to boot. So with a Claymore, next going to be picking up that Broadsword and then finishing up with the Void Stone. It's almost time for him to start farming. And now we get the Mad Serpent Wars committed. They're going to try to bring down Shagosaurus, but he'll manage to tunnel out with that enchant token, killing off that all-important one. But in comes the Echo Slam. However, Chain Frost to bounce around. Bounces on one. Doesn't bounce back, though, but it's not needed. And now we've got Lekels coming through, and that's a double kill on the Anti-Mage. And that's what you do not want to happen if you are Insidious. The rotation coming in from Loki happened at the right time, and Well, both kills going on to Anti-Mage. Perfect performance there, right there for them. But meantime, Ysera's going to try to bring down KYT, and with that Ember Burn could be more than enough, but especially when you got the Enchantress supporting with that Shockwave to clean up. It's a effectively 2-for-1 trade across 2 lanes here in favour of MiTH. Though, Tier 1 starting to take some pressure here from Lekels. Getting this tower down will give them a nice burst of gold, and you consider this game was finished only about 30 seconds ago. He's almost got enough for the broadsword already, and that's accelerated the Anti-Mage's potential battle fury to no end. We consider that he already now has 1,000 gold. We consider he already has treads. It's going to be a fairly quick battle fury. I mean, I believe the average timing after treads and Pormads is around 14 minutes. I'm of course lacking a stats man, so I can't say for certain, but I think it's around 40 minutes after those 2 items are picked up. It's a good time for this Anti-Mage so far, at least if this kind of pace continues. But we of course do have rotations coming through the map, and the potential for kills is very great. The Earthshaker, he desperately wants to get his Blink Dagger online so he can start initiating these fights with that all-important Echo Slam. He wants to start having that impact that an Earthshaker only can. But on the flip side of this coin, we say Blink Daggers. We do see that Blink Dagger now complete for MyPro, and with the Blink available for him, it's going to be a big problem here for Insidious. He can come in and cause so much disruption with only Thunderclap and Primal Split. MyPro has pretty much all the tools in his arsenal that he needs this early in the game, and I'm going to bring up the net worth so we can get a at least brief idea of how this game has panned out. Sure, top 2 cores are Ember and Weaver. Problem is, Anti-Mage is right on the heels, and he almost has that Battle Fury. When that Battle Fury is online, the Anti-Mage is going to soar ahead in terms of gold and experience, just because of the amount of creeps he is killing so quickly. It is going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on. But nonetheless, just behind the top 3, we have the Brewmaster. He does have that Blink Dagger. He's going to start looking for components of that all-important Aghanim Scepter. And if we can see an Aghanims on this Brewmaster before, say, the 27-minute mark, the game does look fairly heavily in favour of MiTH Trust. But that is a tall order. Brew, he only has 300 gold at the minute, and that is a good number of kills and towers away. But now we get the Mass Servant Wars commit. They're looking for a tier 1. They're looking to kick off their towers in terms of getting any down, since they still have 0 towers in their favour, whereas the lineup from Insidious has 2 towers, mid and bot lane. But now potentially rotates in the defense in that smoke. They want to fight this one, and Bethel can hold this. Now comes the Fissure. Lekels will be able to escape this one with 1 TP, with 1 blink away, but now we get the chase coming. Do we see the attempt on Lekels' life? No, we don't. He's going to be well enough away and safe. But we consider Battle Fury is only 100 gold away, and he's going to get that by cleaning up this creep wave, and then he'll go pick up the Battle Fury, and that's going to be very effective in favour of MiTH right now. And now we get equally another rotation coming through, and MiTH decide, yeah, we really want a tower, we want this tier 1, and we're going to force you to rotate again. But of course, Insidious are going to take themselves the top tier 1 before they rotate away. They can invest and get this down very quickly, especially with the Enchantress bringing in 2 creeps. And Elder Titan's going to do what he can to hold this, but he's going to have to be very careful with his life right now. And it will be, by all means, a tier 1 for tier 1 trade by the looks of things. Earthshaker cleans up the top tower, MyPro and Shadow Shaman clean up the mid tower. And 2 more Blink Daggers come online off the back of that. 1 on the Shadow Shaman, but the important one is available for Insidious at this point. They have the Blink on the Earthshaker, and now it's up to this Earthshaker to make this game work. He's opted for the carry Earthshaker style of skill build. He's going to be putting points into Aftershock now. But it honestly is all up to this Earthshaker at this point. He needs to hit these big Echo Slams, especially when towers are starting to fall very quickly. Lekels has that Battle Fury online. And now Battle Fury are going to add up in terms of getting the level advantage, getting the gold advantage, and it's going to push these lanes very quickly. However, Lekels taking a good amount of tower damage, and equally the lineup from MiTH need to be careful, but they're going to commit the Mass Serpent Wards, and they're going to look for more. Blink away there by the Brew, and it's going to just be a cleanup of the wards here for Insidious, and then they might rotate for more, or they might push the tower a little bit here. They could start pushing on a tier 2. They do have all the tier 1 towers down, all the outer towers. So, do they look for a tier 2, or do they just rotate back into farm up? Can they really afford to look for a tier 2 right now? Do they have the pressure on the map? I'm not sure they do. I mean, sure, your Ember Spirit, he has a Battle Fury equal to the Anti-Mage, but he has no drum. He doesn't have anything really in terms of stats to increase his health. He's got less than 1,000 health. Sure, the Battle Fury gives you regeneration, it doesn't give you any outright strength, which is why we often do see the drum picked up by an Ember. It will help him in tanking up. Do we actually have a drum anywhere on the side of MiTH? It appears not, and we are going for a rushed Aghanims equally onto the Enchantress. And we have the BKB on Bethel as well. So no Lincolns this game, going for the safer option with that BKB. Most likely into a Desolator next, and that will give him the right click he needs. Maybe come back later for the Lincolns, or maybe just buy a new BKB in the later stages of this game. If this goes late, sure. But you are still against an Anti-Mage, and Anti-Mage now has you on the clock. He is just going to blink through this jungle, farming up left, right and centre. These camps are going to fall in no time at all, and we see the pickup of the Ring of Regen, which indicates to me we're going to see our Vladimir's onto Lakel's before he opts for any bigger item, say a Yasha or a Manta. And I like the pickup of the Vlads for this team. You consider how many heroes this Vlads is going to help. Brewmaster is going to gain benefit from the lifesteal. The entire team is going to gain benefit from the armor. And speaking of lifesteal, of course, KYT will also benefit from that lifesteal aura. It's a very big thing to have that Vlad's available, and putting it on the Anti-Mage will just mean he is all that much safer in terms of picking off heroes, in terms of farming up and getting kills. But for Lakel's here, continuing just to farm up, he's going to be a beast at this point. And you can see what I said. His net worth, he was third, he's now skyrocketed up to first, and he's going to maintain that advantage in my mind fairly easily. But equally, items coming up for MiTH, they have that mechanism. And that mechanism is going to allow them to push towers easier, and with a tier 1 falling as well, they have equalized the tower lead, but they're going to need to defend this top tier 2. They need to stop Ysera pushing and getting this level of farm. He's already got another 1200 gold in the bank, and is he looking for any kill here? He's looking for more. He's going to go on to KYT, catches the Ember Chains on 2 though. It locks out MyPro and Noki before they can initiate. And that, in my mind, is a little stroke of luck right there, and Ysera is going to need to be careful off the back of this next initiation, but he does have backup. Do we see the Echo Slam? They want to go. Yes, we do. Echo Slam to initiate. Good amount of burst damage, but in comes the mech. Are they going to bring down KYT? I don't think they are. The Echo Stomp gets cancelled once, but in comes the Primal Split. In comes the Mass Serpent Ward to commit, but everyone is just running away. Shagasaurus should be able to escape this, but no, put into the air by the Brewmaster, by the Storm Panda. Now they're going to look to bring down the Earthshaker. He will blink at least once, but it does not matter. He is a victim here and will be cleaned up by Noki on that Lich. We haven't actually looked at the Lich in a while. He's got 1,000 gold, and he also has his brown boots now. So he actually has boots, which is going to help them out in at least some way, shape, and form. And the full Vlad's now complete on Lakel's as well. That was quick. That was very quick. And I should think, if he keeps up this rate of farm, let's take a quick look at his gold per minute, shall we? He's got nearly 500 gold per minute. However, we do lose the courier here. That was Ysera picking up the courier heading to KYT. If we look at the gold lead and the gold per minute here for this Anti-Mage, he is going to have nearly 500 gold per minute, and that's going to accelerate when he gets that Yasha as well. It's a very worrying thing here. I think we're going to see a Manta around maybe the 24-25 minute mark. Maybe a little earlier if he can get a few kills as well without sacrificing too much time farming. But the entire map belongs to this Anti-Mage at this point. He's going to push out and kill these ancients. Well, he's going to kill these ancients, and he's going to rotate mid or bot and push out whatever's left. He could also TP top and just continue to contest this farm, but Ysera is up here, and Ysera could slow him down that a little bit. And when you're playing an Anti-Mage, it is all about efficiency, and Lakel certainly knows that. He's going to go for the enemy jungle instead, and this is going to annoy Insidious. Enchantress likes her jungle. You're depriving her of her jungle. She doesn't like that. But no, Lakel's will go through the jungle, and now he's even taking the bot lane worth of farm. Being very aggressive in his farming style. I like this kind of play. I like this kind of aggressive farming. This, in some ways, greed from an Anti-Mage. He has the ability to escape. He is generally safe. And what do we have to stop Anti-Mage from blinking? Do we have any silencers available? We don't have an Orchid on anyone. Sure, the Dark Troll Warlord is going to at least hold him with the ensnare for a half second, but that's not enough. What silencers are there? There is, of course, the Ancient Seal. But Ancient Seal, it involves Zegred getting a little too close to Anti-Mage for his own comfort at this point. Sure, you've got the Earthshaker from Shagasaurus lurking nearby. He wants to try to find kills, but it's going to be very rough. And you can see he's backing up Ysera the entire way around. The Echo Slam is available once more, but he has gained only 1 level since we last looked, and that was a good 3 minutes ago. He is falling off in terms of getting this level progression, and he needs the levels at this point. He honestly does. But speaking of levels and gold, MiTH gain another objective here. They get the Roshan. They do commit the Mass Serpent Wards for it, but it does go onto the Anti-Mage, and this Anti-Mage can now farm safely with no threat at all, but Top lane we will see a little trade, and they will lose the Elder Titan for their efforts here, with the Mystic Flare being commit though, as well as the Echo Slam. So that's 2 ultimates invested for just a Elder Titan at this point. And sure, it's a core Elder Titan, but it still is a lot to invest for a single hero. And you consider if Lekels wants to fight at any point soon, and he has 3,000 gold as well, it's going to be very rough. And I said around the 24-minute mark, he's online for that 24-minute mark Manta. Especially if he gets stacked Ancients by his supports. His supports are doing everything possible to increase the GPM of this anti-mage. He's over 500 GPM now, and it's only going to increase. But equally, MiTH defending this top tier 2 the entire time, and the progressive siege coming out of Ysera here. He wants to keep a pressure on this top lane, and it's going to be up to him. But now we see a line drawn by the team of MiTH. They pop the smoke, they want to go aggressive. What can they find with this smoke? That they need to find Earthshaker, or they need to find the Ember. Both would be good targets here. They have the Primal Split. They look for Stegosaurus, thinking second thoughts about it, don't want to commit to it. Even with that Blink Dagger and components for an Aghanims available from MyPro, it's still a very hard kill because of the threat of that Ember Spirit coming in and doing that good amount of damage that Ember Spirit is known for. But for the flip side of this coin, we see Aghanims components coming up for MyPro. We have a full Aghanims in exchange in favour of Insidious. Now, this is going to increase his damage and, of course, increase his range with Impetus. My curiosity is, what item do we see next on the Enchantress? Do we see that Orchid I mentioned earlier, just for another ability to lock down the Anti-Mage, or do we see something else? Do we see maybe a BKB for safety? Do we see maybe another choice of item? But now we get the Ancient Seal come in. They're going to try to bring down the Lekels, but it will only force the Aegis. If they get this kill, will get the kill, but do they have another Ancient Seal to go? No, they don't. It's still on cooldown for 2 seconds. They're not going to be able to bring him down a second time, at least not without big risk of a support rotating in to try to defend him. Of course, little did Insidious know, no other supports were even in the, well, even in shouting range of Lekels at that point. They could have killed him a second time, but didn't want to commit to it. They're happy with taking the Aegis away from him. But equally, other items coming up across the board. Lich is still fairly poor. He's got 2,000 gold, sure. He's fairly poor in terms of items available to him. He has progressively one of the lowest GPMs, and we can see in the net worth as well. He's only got 3,000 net worth, and over half of that is in liquid gold, effectively. How much of this is unreliable? Only 600, so it's a good number of kills and towers providing that, or comprising of that 2,000 gold. And there's another thing so many players don't keep in mind. Unreliable gold versus reliable gold. It is such a big difference, and it's something you should keep at least in your mind as a factor when you're playing. It can make such an impact. Let's say you want to team fight and you have all reliable gold. Fine, you're golden. You won't lose it if you die. But if you have, let's say, 2,000 unreliable gold, you're going to lose a large chunk of that if you manage to fall in a fight. But now we get the rotation coming in from the lineup of Insidious. They want to try to find something off the back of this. They're going to drop their Sentry Wards, and they're going to find Lekels. This is a pretty big kill if they can kill the Anti-Mage, and they commit the Echo Slam as well. They'll get the SD as well on that Shadow Shaman, which is absolutely perfect. A good use of ultimates, a good investment, and they managed to finish off the carry Anti-Mage, of course. And they did take the gem away from MiTH Trust as well. That was previously on the Shadow Shaman or Anti-Mage, and now firmly in the hands of Insidious. And I'm wondering what the graphs look like 25 minutes in. We're getting more in terms of mid to late game at this point, in terms of progression. The gold lead, which was so heavily in favour of Insidious at one point, near a 4,000 gold lead, is now nearing the 0 mark once again. This work here, this entire downward slope, was anti-mage farming. That was his level of growth, and we could see that in his GPM. It was over 500. Equally experienced, though. 5,000 experience in favour of MiTH. That's because they've been spread out across the map more. They've been split up, they've been getting experience themselves, they've not been sharing it, they've not been playing Death Ball or Team Push. Plus they've been getting more objectives, they've been getting Roshan, big ancient stacks. It adds up very quickly, but still, this game is by no means over. This game is close. The graphs show it. It is pretty much dead on 0. However, the later this game goes, the easier in my mind it is for MiTH. Of course, we haven't looked at Ysera in a while. he does have the Battle Fury we mentioned before. More importantly, he has crit now online. So his burst damage is starting to add up, and if he can make use of the Sleight of Fist throughout these next few teamfights, it could be a devastating thing to rotate and turn this game around. Turn it on its head and completely shift the momentum the other way. But equally, MiPro gets another big item up. He has his Aghanims, and really, MiPro now, he's absolutely golden. What more could this Brewmaster want? Maybe just an aura to carry around on the Earth Panda, and AC wouldn't go amiss on him, because generally we do not see the AC picked up by the Anti-Mage. Of course, you could equally see an AC picked up on KYT at this point. An AC, though, would be powerful nonetheless, because you consider the Natural Order is going to take the enemy's armor down to effectively 0. And then on top of that, AC, -5. An AC would be a very strong pickup here for MiTH Thrust, and it would not surprise me to see it on the Brewmaster or the Elder Titan at this point in the game. Most likely the Brewmaster, since he's harder to kill. It'll be carried around by the Earth Panda, which is notoriously more tanky than, say, the Elder Titan. But as we look around the map, as Lakelz blinks out of sight, he does have that full Manta now. And where do we go from here for Lakelz? Surely it's the heart, and if we see a heart come up on Lakelz, it's going to be oh so much harder for Insidious to find that good teamfight they want. And of course, if he does have that heart, he's not even going to go down to the Echo Slam burst combination from the Earthshaker. And Earthshaker has gone for that Force Staff, so he's not going for the big offlane carry shaker that we could potentially have seen with no crit on him. Equally, though, we don't see signs of a Shivas or signs of a Veil of Discord, which both would be actually very effective in this game for Insidious. What would Veil of Discord empower? Pretty much everything, bar the Sleight of Fist and the Weaver's damage. Everything else is amplified by Veil of Discord. That reduces the enemy magic resistance by another 25% for everyone hit. Another underrated item, an undervalued item. Something that could have such a good impact in this game. And you've got to consider, when you're fighting the Elder Titan, you generally have 0 magic resistance anyway. Why give the opponent that advantage when you can take away their own instead? But from where we sit, and we do sit quite comfortably in this game with our bird's eye view of things, where is the next fight going to come from? Where is the next aggression going to come from? It seems like it'll be this bottom tier 2. This is what Insidious want. And they certainly can fight into this. But it is not as an aggressive game as I thought we would see in the first place. I was thinking we would see many more kills in this. We only have a total of 13 kills total over the course of 30 minutes. But the pushes and the towers, this is methodical Dota. They are taking the towers that they want slowly. They're systematically eliminating the enemy's map control. And this tower here was a very important one. This gives the Dire side their advantage over Roshan for the most part. It is the tower that lets you get into the Rosh pit the quickest. It is a very important one for the Radiant side to take away from MiTH Thrust. But Insidious are just putting the pressure on where they see fit. You can already see the Death Ball lurking around. They can take a teamfight, I feel. They have the ability to take a teamfight, even though the Anti-Mage is coming online ever so fast now. Between Insidious, between the control offered by the Earthshaker, and of course the Enchantress, I feel like they can take a fight, especially with Z-Red and the Ancient Seal. Sure, it's only a level 1 Mystic Flare. He doesn't have much in terms of levels on the Skywrath. The Ancient Seal is level 4, and that pretty much makes it do what it needs to do. And I actually miss a kill right now. The Ember Spirit goes down to Lakelz, and that's a very big kill going the way of MiTH. It's a bigger kill going the way of Lakelz, considering he's only 1,000 away from his Reaver. Make that 2,200 away from the full heart. And was that a spree by chance? Was that a decent spree? That was 344 gold for killing that Ember. It's a very big thing going the way of MiTH right now. And it's honestly up to Insidious to not get caught out of position like that. They cannot risk accelerating this farm of the Anti-Mage anymore. But now we get the blink in from SD, and well, Lakelz, he just comes in with so much damage. With that Manta, there is no defense possible. The Earthshaker just cannot stand versus that level of damage. That is the strength of the Anti-Mage, ladies and gentlemen. He can blink in and kill a hero in less than 2 seconds. That's how long that kill took, less than 2 seconds. Equally though, now we've got the 3-man rotation lurking around from Insidious. They want to find a kill of some type, but equally, Noki dropping the Chain Frost and just using it to farm.
Radiant's
What?
top
I
tower is
don't
under
get why he
attack.
dropped the Chain Frost. I honestly don't understand that one. But, we'll let it fly. We'll just have to accept this and move on. And Lekels is going to help himself to another Roshan. At least attempt to help himself to another Roshan if he doesn't get bashed. But with MiTH rotating in to help out with the Drunken Haze, it should be more than enough to help bring down Roche. The big man will, of course, fall here, and it will be once more in favour of MiTH Thrust, and most likely go on to this Anti-Mage. And we consider Anti-Mage now has 3,500 gold, and nearly a full heart. What does he then go for after the heart? Do we see the Abyssal Blade? Do we see a BKB?
Fallen to the dark.
I should think it'll be an Abyssal Blade, just because they have the survivability already once he has that full heart, and we can see a mass fallback from the side of Insidious. They don't want to risk being caught out, even with the level of farm on this Weaver. He's got a BKB, he's got a Desolator. Still, he's going to have a very hard time standing against that Anti-Mage. But if there's one thing the Anti-Mage is susceptible to, it is the physical damage this Weaver can do. Not mitigated at all by Spell Shield. But of course they need to be able to stay on top of that Anti-Mage to get that level of kill. And for that they need either Ancient Seal or an Orchid. And we still don't have any components for an Orchid up on Insidious. However, that full heart is now complete for Lekels, and Insidious really are on the clock at this point. Anti-Mage has, I'm going to say the cliche, finished farming. What more could he possibly want other than just CS and gold for a buyback / an Abyssal Blade? He has pretty much finished farming in all intent and purpose of being able to take fights. 2,600 health, over 220 damage of right click, and he attacks so damn fast as an Anti-Mage. Not only that, that is before we count the extra damage from Mana Break. Time is the fire here in which Insidious will burn, and they've given that Anti-Mage all the time he needs. It's a very uphill slope here at this point for Insidious, but I am not counting them out by any stretch of the imagination. We can see in the graph, gold-wise, it's only a 2,000 gold lead here for MiTH. Equally experienced, 10,000 lead for MiTH. There's a good chunk more in terms of effectiveness, but still, the gold being that close, you consider the net worth of the Anti-Mage, nearly 20,000. Net worth of the Weaver and the Ember Spirit combined, it will rival that, and they're at 14,000, 15,000 and 13,000 respectively, so quite close behind Lekels, but of course Lekels has that Battle Fury and will continue to farm up with all intent and purpose. But now do we see the potential initiation? They're setting up. Shaq has that Enchant Totem ready to go, drops the Enchant Totem as well as the Fisher, but can't connect with Lekels. And this is how little damage Lekels takes right now. And now we get the initiation from MiTH. They're going to look for Bethel. Primal Split used immediately, but they're not going to be able to get anything off the back of this. The Primal Split is effectively wasted. Mass disengage coming out of Insidious, and this is the right call. Wait out the Primal Split, then take the fight. Takes away from this Brewmaster, takes away from any effectiveness he'll have in the next fight. All he'll be able to do is come in and drop the Thunderclap. But now instead, they could look for Lekels. If he hangs around the Ancients, especially blinking in here, going to try to go onto the Ember Spirit, but no. Forces the Manta and will blink out immediately, but now in comes Bethel with that BKB, and he'll eliminate the Shadow Shaman before anything can happen here. And now Z-Red going to go down on take out MiTH, but Chain Frost starting to bounce around. It'll bounce the Ancients, and that's going to take that out of this fight, take the factor out of the team fight, and that's a 2-for-0 trade in favour of Insidious. They can certainly fight back in this. They are not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. It all just comes down to getting on target, bringing down Lekels. But of course, as I have mentioned time and time again, staying on target, staying on this Anti-Mage is the big difference here. It is not the easiest thing to do. And we consider Lekels is still farming up like a madman. He's now going to go for the tier 3 and split push that, while this tier 2 is being taken by Insidious. And Insidious are starting to try to build up some momentum, trying to start some map control, and they're going to mass TP back to stop this tier 3 push. They want to try to get some damage on Lekels, but Lekels is just too damn fast. Unless he turns around, going to go for Bethel. Gets a good amount of damage and drops the Mana Void as well, but manages to time-lapse. Of course, level 16 Weaver has no mana cost on the time-lapse. And this is a big 1-minute cooldown, sure, on Lekels, but he's going to be fine. He's just going to blink around, continue farming as I lose sight of him for a half second. He went up instead of down. It's going to be all important. The more Lekels gets in terms of space and time, I've said time and time again, it is going to be scary. He wants an Abyssal Blade next, and then he can lock down that Weaver. He can lock down the Ember Spirit. And what do you need to kill Ember Spirit and Weaver? Lockdown. It is all he wants at this point, and he'll sell his Vlads potentially for it, or just wait until the Aegis times out, and it does time out in less than 2 minutes. is just the threat that this anti-mage poses right now. And, well, he is out of control. He is farming the enemy jungle as much as his own. He is farming all 3 lanes, and he has all 4 of his friends nearby. This is the 4 protect 1 strategy from MiTH Trust. These 4 heroes have bought so much time for this anti-mage. And it will be the final tier 2, well, one of the final tier 2s falling here in favour of MiTH. And look how quickly this tower falls when anti-mage gets on target. Equally though, now we get the initiation from SD. They're going to go straight into Bethel. The Weaver caught in the ward trap. Hexed as well. Shackled. Can they find anything off the back of this? MyPro comes in. And a big echo. Not big echo. Big Earth Splitter to connect on everyone. Insidious forced out. Double kill going the way of KYT. Just look at the big damage coming out of this Elder Titan. He has 283 stolen damage then. He was hitting for well over 400 a swing. And that Calamity could cost Insidious racks at this point. Do they have buybacks? I don't think they do. They have a buyback on the Ember Spirit, they have a buyback on the Skywrath Mage and the Enchantress, but not on the Weaver, and the Weaver is the one they need back in this fight right now. And this will be the first set of racks of the game. Big Echo Slam coming in though, connecting onto Noki as well as the Fisher. Going to finish him off with one more right click. In the meantime, in the back lines, you've got the Shadow Shaman messing around with the Ysera, but he's just getting chopped to pieces by the Ember Spirit and a little more damage being thrown around. But while this fight is going on the bottom lane, top lane, Lakels, he cares not for your fight. He wants the tower. Now you get the silence coming onto Lakels, but it's not enough. They need more to bring him down. This tickles Lakels. He needs more right-click damage, but Lakels wins any kind of right-click engagement, at least without the Weaver. The Weaver can at least attack him from range and not give Lakels the opening to attack back. And you can see they're trying to buy Lakels their time for this Earthshaker to come in. Too many ESs in this game, but Enchant Totem, Fisher, going to be enough, and they finally bring down the Anti-Mage, and the Fisher, the Aegis did time out. Too many ESs. Earthshaker, Ember Spirit, I lose my words, I get tongue-tied, but nonetheless, the pressure is there now for Insidious. They've got 72 seconds where this Anti-Mage is dead. However, the Anti-Mage has that buyback. How much gold does this Anti-Mage have? 4,200. With 4,200 gold for Anti-Mage, he could buy back and still nearly afford a Basher, which would fill that final 6th slot for this Anti-Mage. It is such an effective tool here for him, and he could take this opportunity, but I don't feel like he needs to buy back right now. The lanes are still all heavily pushed out in favour of MiTH at this point, and the only lane that could be a threat here is this top lane, and Bethel won't want to push this in alone. They've killed the Anti-Mage, but they've gotten no objectives off the back of it. They take it as a trade off the back of losing their racks and losing their second tier 3. Not favourable at all for Insidious. But from where we sit, 5,000 gold lead. Starting to build some momentum here in terms of gold earned for MiTH. But gold earned at this point in the game means absolutely nothing. Equally, 8,000 experience in favour of MiTH. But we're so far into this game, the Anti-Mage is the big threat here. If you kill Anti-Mage, you have an advantage. If the Anti-Mage is alive, you're at a disadvantage. That is how this game stands right now, and really, it is up to Insidious to try to find the opening, to try to find a rotation, to try to find a gank. But MiTH have had such a good positional advantage throughout this game. They've had the initiations from MyPro. They've had the evasive farming strategies of the Anti-Mage, who is even evading my camera. Lakels has everything he wants, and really, I'm waiting to see where MiTH exert their pressure next. They've got the racks on this bot lane, at least they have the range racks. They have exposed racks on the top lane. Anti-Mage, he can split push, but this Anti-Mage is so farmed, he can brawl straight up with the lineup of Insidious. Do they just push down the mid lane? Speaking of pushing down the mid lane though, Insidious, Smoke, they want to go aggressive, perhaps look for a big Echo Slam. Lakels is certainly the target of opportunity if they can bring him down. Of course, he has that Lincoln's Echo Slam to go. They're going to commit everything. If they can bring him down, that could be huge, but Lakel's still standing and will blink out last second with that Manta to remove the silence and just forces BKBs, forces mass up, and with so many ults were committed to that fight, do we have the turnaround? MyPro chasing down Shagasaurus. One more right click could finish him off, but equally Insidious will throw some blows into MyPro. Back in the meantime, the rest of the fight, everyone's going to stand down. No one died in that entire fight. Anti-Mage still stands strong. Shagasaurus escapes. The only things committed were ultimates. Echo Slam is offline. Mystic Flare offline for 10 seconds. And most importantly, Weaver does not have his time-lapse either for another 15 seconds. This gives MiTH time and opening to take this tier 2 tower, and off the back of taking this tier 2 tower, we could potentially see tier 3 mid and racks. It could be all MiTH want. And honestly, If MiTH can get this set of racks in the mid lane, it's going to put such a disadvantage here in favour of Insidious.
Radiant's
I'm not sure if Insidious will be able to hold it. They're already 1 racks down, sure. Only a single rack's not a full set, but being near 2 full sets of racks down, potentially, is such an advantage that it's very difficult to come back from. But equally, MiTH will just take the tower and fall back. They can't risk the pressure. They cannot risk getting jumped or killed. But Lakels is going not for an Abyssal Blade. He is going for a Butterfly. He realises the physical damage is the one thing that can bring him down. And he's opting for evasion. And this evasion, even just the evasion talisman, could be more than enough. And they will bring down the Lich before the fight even kicks off. And Bethel, as well as Insidious, are trading some blows into Lakels. But Lakels is getting aggressive now. He does not care anymore. Do they have the initiation? In comes Shagasaurus. He doesn't have an Echo Slam for 10 seconds. If they can bring down the Earthshaker now before the Echo Slam, it could be the deciding factor of this fight. But Shiva's now being popped by KTY. Ember Spirit charging over the top, doesn't want to risk being caught out. But look how far they're baiting down this Brewmaster. All of his split pandas are here, but what else can they find off the back of this one? So far they've got a Lich for nothing. They have Echo Slam available again. They don't have any remnants on Ysera though, and that takes away from his potential damage so heavily. They're happy getting the Lich and they're going to fall back, deal with their lanes. Equally though, the big man, Roshan, is back, and we sell the Vladimirs. We're going to get the 3rd Aegis of this game in favour of MiTH, and most importantly there is also Cheese this time. With Cheese available here for MiTH, it could give them the advantage they need to push in. And this Cheese, of course, who do they put the Cheese on? Do they put it onto MyPro? Seems they will. He's got the space. And he could, of course, if the team need to, after the Aegis is popped, put the Cheese onto Lakels in place of that Aegis. We've seen that happen before in terms of trading the Cheese in fights. It happens rarely. It happened at TI3 a few times. It happened at TI4 twice. I wouldn't put it past these players on MiTH, though. They are so skilled. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're trying to at least break the base finally, fully get a full lane of racks, break this tier 3 in the mid lane. I am not, however, counting Insidious out. They have the ability to fight. They have proven that time and time again. Sure, this is a step back in terms of aggression, in terms of the kill count, but it is perfect technical Dota. It is the kind of Dota that shows skill over mindless aggression, and Lakels trying to get this final racks down on the bottom lane, but now he'll go aggressive, going to look to bring down the Scarith, and look how quickly he falls. But equally, Scarith will escape, and now we get the rotation back in. They want the racks, forcing the fortification. That's 5 minutes before that's back online, and MyPro will be the target. In comes the Fisher, Echo Slam as well. They bring down the Brewmaster, but now Lakels, he's still up. Earth Splitter to come through. Who's it going to connect on? No one. It's just going to disrupt the entire positioning of Insidious. And do we see the chase? Do we have the potential to chase? Yes, we damn well do. Lakels, he wants to be the victim here, or at least Insidious want him to be the victim, but now comes the turnaround. They'll lose Bethel off the back of that turnaround. It's a very rough turn for Insidious, sure, but now MiTH are trying to get back into this one. Lakel still stands, has that Aegis, and a Lincoln's on him. Very hard to bring down. He's going to regen up with that heart any second. We still do have that mech onto the Elder Titan as well, so that'll help with the healing, but we lose 1 for 1. We lose a Weaver for a Brew. We lose a Core for a Core. And the Rax still stands. What do MiTH need to do at this point to break this Rax? Do they just keep the pressure on? Can they just keep the pressure on? Because as we consider it, do we have buybacks on the Weaver? Yes, we do. If MiTH commit in full, we could just see a buyback from the Weaver and then the fight will start all over again. It is the epitome of a turnaround game, a rough game, exchange for exchange, trade for trade. And you can see in the graph, this graph is still only 5,000. Normally we see such a bigger snowball in favour of one of the teams. It is still inherently close in the gold graph. And now, here we go. They want to bring down this Rax and going to hold it for what they can with the initiation, but in comes the damage onto Lakels. Can they bring him down in time? Yes, they can. They force the Aegis only, though. And Ysera will pop the Shadow Shaman with one sleight of fist. Equally, though, Lakel's sheeped up before the Lincolns can be applied. Can they bring him down a second time? No. He's going to blink away. They don't really want to risk committing like that. The Weaver's now back alive. Sure, the Shadow Shaman is down. And now they're going to look for KTY, who drops his Shivas to try to stop the chase, but it does not matter. In come the Blink Daggers. As soon as that BKB goes down, there's going to be a stun coming from Shagasaurus. And they don't even need to wait that long either. Shagasaurus picks up the killing spree, and they're trying to claw their way inch by inch back into this game. Equally though, Lakels has his Butterfly now. He has another 2,300 gold. Are we really going to see the maximum 6-slot anti-mage? Do we really want to see the Abyssal Blade on top of this for Lakels? I think we damn well do. We want to see the brawls the Abyssal Blade will offer. And it seems like Kells desperately wants to have that extra bash, that extra control effect in his favour as well. And honestly, it would not surprise me at this point just to maybe possibly wait for the Roshan. It could happen. I highly doubt it though, because it would be giving space to Insidious. And if Insidious gets space, they can start to claw their way back into this. Now, I did mention early in this draft, around the 45-minute mark, the anti-mage becomes full. He becomes fully 6-slot and he becomes a big threat. But we're getting past that time now. And there is another timer that we have to wait for. That could potentially happen here. If we get past the 55-minute mark, the 60-minute mark, the Weaver will be fully online and he has a heart. He can now get rid of his potential Aquila and look for an MKB to try to counter that Butterfly. Equally, we've also got to consider the Earthshaker. He wants an AC or a Shiva's Guard of his own. He's going to be coming online. Enchantress, what is she going to go for? She has a Scythe of Vice. Could she potentially go for any other item now that will help her tank up? She could go for a BKB. Hell, we could even see a late Orchid. More silence is good. But what else is available here for the lineup of Insidious? For Z-Red. He's been fairly poor throughout this game. He's desperately trying to get a BKB to at least get some more survivability in this game. And he has been the unfortunate victim for a lot of these rotations and kills. While there haven't been many kills in this game, he has, I believe, 3 deaths to his name. He's 3, 3, and 3. He's not had the impact that he would want in this game as a Skywrath Mage. But nonetheless, for the flip side of this coin, what do we have coming up for MiTH? On the Shadow Shaman, he's trying to build a refresher. We have a Divine Rapier, however, picked up for the Ember Spirit, and now the game has taken a whole new turn. This is a double Divine Rapier even. I missed the DR. How did I miss the DR? Where did... Of course the damage came from a DR. How did I even miss that? That's an oversight by me and a half, but with 2 DRs now available, I can understand the hesitance from MiTH to push into this. If the anti-mage goes down, it could be a massive turnaround. And 2 DRs can fuel that. All it would take is one good team fight now from Insidious, and they could flip it around this entire game. And we also will point out, he did have the wolf behind him. It'll time out now, unfortunately, because the Enchantress's control is not permanent. But it's by no means over. And the Divine Rapiers are the epitome of this. They are your last ditch thing to go for. And there are 2 in this game, and I didn't even see the first one. But now we know why MiTH is being hesitant. They don't want to risk being picked off in the sleight of fist. How much is this Ember Spirit doing in terms of right-click now? And he has a Daedalus to boot. He's doing well over 800 damage. 875 damage a hit. Before crit. And crit is 240%. He's going to be critting for well over 2k. 1 crit can end this game. 1 crit can level the team of MiTH. Even the anti-mage, he is susceptible to this level of aggression as well. But it seems this is why they are so hesitant in pushing in. This is why they might wait for that next Aegis. If we see another Aegis of the Immortal on MiTH Trust's side, do they put it on the anti-mage? That's the question. This anti-mage is so heavily farmed right now. He does have that cheese in his inventory at this point, and we could look for another Aegis on him, but equally an Abyssal Blade could be the key decision maker. Now, Abyssal Blade, of course, it is the single most expensive item in the game, even more so than the Rapier, yes. But it is the only item that can stun through the BKB or potential immunity of any type from Ysera. Now, sure, he doesn't have a BKB of his own, but it will give him 2 seconds of lockdown where that AM can waylay on the Ember Spirit. It is completely up to the Kells at this point to lock down that Ember if he goes for that Abyssal Blade. What else do they have that can lock down the Ember long enough? Do they have any forms of silence? No. They have a Hex on SD. They have potentially that Refresher coming up soon as well. Over on the Elder Titan, they don't have any lockdown that would give them the time to kill him, because as soon as you attack the Echo Stomp, of course, it will break the sleep. Equally, the Lich. He's been playing very poor throughout this game. He's got the Lincolns, of course, which he's been putting on his friendly neighbourhood anti-mage this entire game. But we have no Sheepsticks up at all for the side of MiTH Trust. A Sheepstick or an Abyssal Blade will turn this game around again. Also, though, with 2 Rapiers, well, I didn't expect a game like this. I honestly didn't, and it is such a pleasure to see. And this proves it. If anything ever proves it, this game does. It is never over until the Ancient falls. But where is the next fight going to break out? Is it a case of we go for Roshan now? He has respawned. We're at 51 minutes in. This is the 4th Roshan. We could potentially have double cheese on Lakel's. Or, well, double cheese on any hero. But equally, there is no vision here for the Radiant side. Insidious do not know Roshan is spawned. They do not know that the Dire side are rotating towards the Rosh pit. They may guess. At an absolute push, they may guess. But still, this is where the game will take a, in my mind, dramatic turn. The Aegis is going to be the thing that MiTH will need to push the base. I mean, what more could they want? What more could they wait for? Sure, they've got 6,200. They could pick up a Rapier on Lakel's, but of course the Rapier on an anti-mage doesn't have as much of an impact as it does on an Ember, which is a thing to keep in mind. And we do see a cell. Oh, hello. That is the Abyssal Blade. We've got the Abyssal Blade going to be flying out now to the anti-mage at the cost of selling the Battle Fury. So he's losing the cleave, gaining the ability to lock down and kill the Ember. This game is going to come down to one big team fight, one big clash, one big wreck, basically. A pair of trucks crashing into each other at 60 miles an hour is what this game is going to come down to. MiTH Trust have everything they need. They have the Abyssal Blade. They have the Aegis. It all comes down now to positioning and gameplay. The farming game is over. Now comes the game of skill. It all comes down to this one team fight. We have a double Divine Rapier in one corner. We have an Aegis Abyssal Blade in the other. But nonetheless, what can MiTH show us? They need good initiation, maybe from MyPro. They can't risk committing immediately with the Anti-Mage, surely. If the Anti-Mage leads the charge, he may not get the Abyssal Blade off in time. He may get silenced, he may get hexed. There is a Sheepstick available on the side of Insidious, and it is on that Enchantress. And the Enchantress you can't burst down because of that all-important Untouchable. But still, BKB is now being used, damage being traded, no crit coming from Ysera that time, and it does force the Elder Titan back. He can't risk getting picked off. And it's just the pressure of this game has slowly mounted. It's the tense moment before the storm. Back at the final Rax on the spotlight. This Rax has been such a pain here for MiTH. It has stood through fight after fight inside the enemy base. What can we see coming up next? What can Insidious do to hold this? They rely so heavily on the Ember Spirit. If the Ember Spirit goes down, can they hold it? That is the key question that we need an answer to. And we still don't have an MKB available, I don't believe. And Spirit will rotate in, looking to try to set up a storm, but everyone's going to fall back immediately. Do we have any MKB anywhere to be seen? I don't think we do, but in the meantime, top lane, Lakel's comes in, looks for the damage, but he will take a fall here. Aegis forced, do we have the rotation in? In comes the split push. Mass Serpent Sword's committed, and it's going to be a case of, yes, we're going to try to take your Rax, but the fortification is there once more. The Lakel's will go down a second time. The Anti-Mage dead for 100 seconds, has a buyback, however. Equally, though, the Rax starting to be chipped down. However, all these 7 wards are going to be cleaned up before the Rax falls, and this Rax is a melee Rax. It's going to regen. You've just commit your Anti-Mage for not even a full Rax because of that fortification. The attempt at a split push denied here by Insidious, and Insidious holding their own by far. Equally though, this melee Rax on the top lane did take a good amount of damage, but again, melee Rax, it's going to regen. You cannot bring a melee Rax low and just leave it. It will all be regened and it will all start again. Just a small reset, a small reprieve here for MiTH. 50 seconds until that Anti-Mage is back online, and Ysera and crew, they want to push in. They want to at least get something for killing this Anti-Mage, and they need to. I said this earlier in the game. You killed the Anti-Mage, you need to take an objective as well. If you kill the Anti-Mage for the sake of killing the Anti-Mage, you gain nothing. You need a Rax at this point. Kills mean nothing, Rax mean everything. But still, now we see the siege. This time on the Rax and the towers of MiTH for the first time in 30, maybe 40 minutes. They're going to throw the Chain Frost to try to buy some time. Does he have an Aghanims on that Lich? No, he doesn't. It only has 10 bounces, and it's not that big a threat alone. Equally though, SD Coming down here, pushing the lanes out still. He's overstaying his welcome a little bit, but the racks are almost back to full health. And with the anti-mage up, not even Insidious feel comfortable pushing into this one. And this has the potential to go to ultra late game. It has the potential for the Weaver to be uber farmed, to go for that MKB. It has the potential for equally the Ember Spirit to do the same. And he has bought his Boots of Travels. He's sold his treads. He's got that free space. Do we now see an MKB on Ysera? And if we see an MKB on Ysera, the anti-mage has nowhere to hide. He cannot risk getting picked off in these fights. He's going to have to play so carefully. As I mentioned earlier, it's all about that Abyssal Blade for the anti-mage. And the Butterfly did buy him chances. It bought him the ability to survive on chance in these team fights. However, if we do see that MKB picked up by this Ember, it's going to all be over but for the crying in my mind, since there'll be no way to dodge that double Divine Rapier potential crit coming out of the Ember. And if we do the quick napkin math, a crit from that Divine Rapier is going to do over 2,000 damage. It's going to be about, I want to say, 2,200 damage just from my mental napkin math. Of course, that's before armor. I'm calculating that. So we look at the anti-mage, and he does have 31 armor, so he's not exactly a squishy target by any means, but Divine Rapiers say otherwise. Divine Rapiers are such a powerful thing if you can maintain control of them. And we hear a BKB. Why do we hear a BKB? BKB used by Z-Red. I'm not sure why. Maybe a miskey on that one, but from where we stand, it's a cautionary tale here for MiTH. One step wrong and they lose to Insidious, and this game will go to 1-1. Of course, this is a best of 2 for the JDL, but what a best of 2 it has turned out to be. And you can see Shagasaurus equally playing the mind games. He's hiding in the jungle. If anyone comes to stop Bethel on the Weaver, Echo Slam. And this is a BKB 4-staff Blink Dagger Earthshaker as well, with the potential to go for a Shivas, with the potential to go for an AC. And honestly, do we have an AC available for either of these teams at this point? I don't think we do. No, we don't. We don't have a AC up for anyone on Insidious. We did have that all-important Sheepstick. Equally, though, we just saw another Sheepstick being picked up. It's a Sheepstick for MiPro, and now an AC for that Elder Titan. So they have the damage potential now. They have the negative armor and the natural order to erase Insidious's armor totally. They have now the control, the CC. They have the Sheepstick to lock down the Ember Spirit completely. Is there any Lincolns on the side of Insidious to try to block the Sheepstick? I don't see one. I don't see one at all. So if they can catch Ysera out of position, it could be the game breaker. Does Ysera here save for buyback, or does he invest in a BKB? It's a very hard call to make. It's an incredibly hard call to make. It's a near impossible call to make. You're gambling the ability to buy back in a game versus certainty at not being CC'd and being able to cast those all-important Sleight of Fists. And it's the Sleight of Fists you rely on at this point. You can stay out of the fight so heavily with them, and you can see the Ember. He's using the Sleight of Fists across the jungle just to see if there's anyone hiding, because he will kill anyone in that jungle in one Sleight of Fist unless it's the anti-mage. Equally, Shagasaurus hiding in the jungle. If we see the push down from MiTH as 5, it could be the potential for an Echo Slam, and it seems we are seeing that 5-man push, with the exception of that Shadow Shaman of SD lurking on this bottom lane. And here we go, Noki nearby, going to be going in looking for Shagasaurus, doesn't quite find him. They do have wards up on the cliff there to show everything, and this is such a genius ward spot that gives so much vision over this middle lane. Hell, it gives vision to this marker here, for Christ's sake. It is a huge place to put a ward, and the innovative ward spots are such a key thing to see at times like this. They could give you the edge in these fights. They could give you the edge total. But where do we stand? What more can we see? I mean, we look at the graphs. I've been saying the graphs don't mean much at this point. It is near the 0 gold mark. This is the time that Insidious will have to fight back into this one. And now we're looking for the damage onto MiPro, but he'll just be forced back. The Ember is here, though, backing out. They don't want to risk getting caught. The experience is what I care about. Insidious, they were at a 12k experience deficit. Now it's in their favour. They have turned a 12k experience deficit to 1 in their favour, and now we get a Skadi. We get the gold investment finally. It's a Skadi. It's going to help Ysera tank up. It also means targets will not be able to escape his wrath now. Skadi, Battle Fury, Daedalus, double Divine Rapier travels. That is an insanely farmed Ember. I've got to check this curiosity here. That's a 30,000 net worth on the Ember, beating out that Anti-Mage by a whole 2,000 gold. And the Anti-Mage we thought was going to be the big farmer in this one. We're past the point where Anti-Mage is a threat. We're at the point where the Ember and the Weaver are a threat. This game has turned on a dime so many times. But equally, Insidious, he's still continuing to farm up. He has the sheepstick for Insidious, his namesake near enough. He has the Mask of Madness to try to throw out as much pure damage as possible with the Impetus. He is there right now as a CC and a glass cannon. He has to do everything possible to bring this Anti-Mage down. And of course, the pure damage not mitigated in the slightest by the Anti-Mage's spell shield. That 50% magic resist means nothing to that Enchantress. And well past the 62-minute mark, we're at that standoff again, at that point where Roshan is back up. This is the 5th Roshan of the game. 3 cheeses, 5 Aegises in one game. Do we have the cheese even spent? We've got a cheese on SD. I'm pretty sure we had a cheese on someone else. We've got a cheese on MyPro. Was there another cheese? Yes, the 3rd cheese on KYT. Do they wait till they've got 4 or 5 cheeses? Is that really what they want to wait for? To have extra safety? I don't think they can afford to wait that long. The Weaver is catching up in terms of net worth at this point, and I'm going to bring buyback status up because it's going to be the big impactful thing in this next fight. Everyone on the dire side does not have a buyback. Whereas, well, except the Anti-Mage. However, the Weaver and the Earthshaker do for the Radiant side. We need to see a buyback, however, on the Ember, just for safety in my mind. And he nearly has that buyback. He is at 1,600 gold. Now we get the initiation onto KYT. The fight that could go and turn everything. BKB's being forced. Mystic Flare being used as well as the Chain Frost. But now in comes the Anti-Mage. They're going to look to bring down Ysera. Can they finish him off in time? Yes, they damn well can. The Ember falls. 2 Rapiers on the deck. And now everyone falls back. They can't risk the chase for this one. But MyPro wants more. He wants blood. He's going to try to bring down Shagasaurus. And he's going to be the easy target here. One more crit. One more right click is going to be more than enough. And down. No. Potentially goes the Earthshaker. Stuns out. However, go on to MyPro. Just the Primal Split being enforced. And Shag will manage to escape a few more seconds longer. But Bethel will take a fall. The Weaver instantly buys back in this game, doing what he can to hold this one, but there are 2 Divine Rapiers picked up. Who has the Rapiers? The Rapiers are on the Lich! The Lich has gold! The Lich has items! And, well, GG is called by Insidious. What a turnaround, what a game! Rapiers couldn't hold it, but MiTH Trust take the series 2-0. What in Divinity's Edge did we just see as a game, ladies and gentlemen? Could we really ask for any more? The Abyssal Blade turned the game on a dime. It was all down to the blade. But still, ladies and gentlemen, what can I say? Thank you for joining us here on HeflaTV. We hope to bring you more games to this extent, more games to this epic level. And you can find us on all of our social media, at HeflaTV on Twitch, on YouTube at HeflaMoke. You can find us everywhere, and from me, ladies and gentlemen, this has been one hell of a game. I've enjoyed it. I hope you guys have, but peace out from me for now. I'll be around here on HeflaTV and hopefully with another game for you at some point tonight. Peace out.